we have a very special guest that we just were able to get to come and be with us in the last 24 hours. Some of you may have heard of him, some of you haven't, but he has an amazing story. Never heard a story quite like this before. His name is Mossab Hassan Youssef. And let me tell you a little bit about him. Mossab is the oldest son of Sheikh Hassan Youssef, a founding member of Hamas. And Mossab was being groomed to take over Hamas, or be one of the primary leaders in it. He was involved in the Intifada, and something happened that was unexpected. He was arrested by the Israelis. He was held captive in one of Israel's most feared prison facilities, and there the Israelis approached him about being a spy for them to the members of Hamas. And Mossab agreed to this, not initially planning on really spying for the Israelis, but possibly being a double agent. But while he was in prison, when he saw the mistreatment of Muslims to fellow Muslims, he began to rethink his whole position and ended up being one of Israel's most effective spies, saving many, many lives, averting terrorist bombings, because of the brave choices that he made. He prevented suicide bombings. He exposed terrorist cells. Many lives were spared because of the courage of Mossab Hassan Youssef. And then his story takes another twist. A British cabbie shared the gospel with him, and he gave his life to Jesus Christ. There's much more to the story than that, but the reason we could not announce this ahead of time is there are security concerns. As you could probably well understand, for a man with his background to make a stand like he is taking takes great courage. He's written a book called Son of Hamas that is out right now, and it is our privilege to welcome Mossab Hassan Youssef to our conference.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege to be here. I'm very happy to be between you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. You were raised in a Muslim home in Ramallah. Is that correct?
Yes. And
you, in your book, The Son of Hamas, talk about the fact that Islam is like a ladder. A lot of people, especially in America, don't understand Islam today. They don't know what to think of it, because possibly the most public face of Islam is the terrorist and terrorism in general. And so people don't understand the stages and the variations within the Islamic faith. Maybe you could explain this ladder and how that worked in your own life.
First of all, what I can say that Islam is the biggest lie in the human history, and it's a perfect lie. It's a lie that Muhammad lied to his people and to everybody 1400 years ago. He wrapped this lie with layers of facts, truths, morals, which made it a perfect lie that deceived billions of people. Now Islam, I describe it as a ladder because it's a religion of works. Yeah. It's not a relationship. You do things and there's a reward at the end of the day. So you keep climbing this ladder. Most traditional Muslims are standing on the first rung of that ladder, and they start climbing, praying more, fasting more, doing more charity, and getting closer to their God. the highest rung of that ladder is jihad. This is the holiest duty of a Muslim, jihad.
And what is jihad? What is jihad?
Jihad now they are trying, to explain it as a struggle, but it's not struggle. Jihad means fighting, using force, using the sword for the glory of Allah. Muhammad did it himself, and Muhammad is the highest example of every Muslim. In fact, Muhammad is more important to Muslims than Allah himself. Muhammad created the personality of Allah to give him authority to do what he wanted. He couldn't say that I am Allah and worship me. So he created Allah into their minds and he made them worship this God, but simply they were worshiping him, they were doing his will, and it's all about Muhammad. Now Muhammad, as the highest example for Muslims, himself, he killed thousands of people. He cleansed entire communities, like Jewish communities in the Arab Peninsula that didn't agree with him, and they didn't even collaborate with him. So we're talking about a first-class killer that killed people who didn't agree with him, and this is the highest example for Muslims. So now when Muslims come and tell me, or tell everybody that Islam is not, radical Islam is not Islam. There is no such a thing, radical Islam, because Islam is radical from the first place.
Right.
And there is no need to divine. And what I say, that the God of Islam himself is the biggest terrorist. Instead of chasing a ghost like Bin Laden and all those small terrorists, the God of Islam, he's the responsible number one. He's the motivation behind all those terrorist attacks in the world. And this is the real enemy that we need to be fighting.
Yes, you said in an interview with the Wall Street Journal, the problem is not a Muslim, the problem is with their God. They need to be liberated from their God. He's their biggest enemy. That's pretty much what you're saying here.
Yes, now I might look like to Muslims that I'm taking stand with the West against them, with America against Islam, with Israel against Islam. And I tell them, you know something, I'm taking stand to your side against your God, because your God is your biggest problem. Your God has been enslaving you. Your God is sending you to death. Your God is destroying you. And imagine how dangerous that they bow their knees 5 times a day to their biggest enemy. And they don't recognize it. Very dangerous. And the consequences to recognize, just to recognize this and fight against it, this means that you put in yourself a death sentence. Those are the weapons that God of Islam uses against Muslims. The demon of fear, demon of guilt, demon of shame. Even Christians in the Middle East, they see me as traitor today. I'm sorry to say that. And this hurt me very much. Why? Because I didn't take stance toward Israel against Palestinians. I was saving human being lives. Israelis and Palestinians, and we will talk about this in details, but our focus should be not on Muslims, our focus should be on Islam, the ideology, the God of the Islam. This is the real gangster I like to describe him. And please, try to repeat this, all the time between your friends. We want to fix the dictionary of the Middle East. The dictionary is wrong. And Islam is not a religion of peace. Islam means submission. Salam means peace. Islam means submission. So we're talking about a religion of submission, that you don't submit, you get killed. This is in the core of that belief and that faith. And instead of humans fighting humans, let's ideology fight ideology. Let's the ideology of love, of forgiveness, fight with the ideology of hate and controlling others, and the idea of destruction, in fact. And this is what we are doing today.
Now, Musab, you're arrested by the Israelis. They ask you to cooperate with them and be an agent for them. a Shin Bet, as it's called, and they give you a name. You're called the Green Prince. What does that mean, the Green Prince, and what was it they were asking you to do?
Everybody in the Shin Bet has a code. Like, you know, here in America, FBI use numbers, but in the Shin Bet, we use codes. So it was Prince because of my father's position as a top leader of Hamas and a top leader also of Palestinians. And green for the flag of Hamas, or the color of Islam in general. So that was why the Green Prince.
So you were able to go back into your community where people knew you, and you were privy to behind-the-scenes information that you could alert the Israelis to people that were potential targets, that could be areas that were going to be targeted, bombings, and so forth, correct?
This is a very complicated work. It's not like informant,
Yes.
somebody who knew about information and he went to the closest phone and made a phone call. It's a different type of job. I was in the heart of Hamas. I was in the heart of Palestinian Authority, in the heart of other Palestinian factions, PLO, Yasser Arafat meetings because of my father's position. And his position gave me lots of cover and lots of space to move around. Now, it was a joint effort. It wasn't my effort alone. The Shin Bet had lots of information, maybe more information than what I had, but I could put information together, and what didn't make sense to them, it made perfect sense to me because I'm the son of that culture, the son of that movement, of that religion. So I could solve many puzzles that they couldn't solve. They had lots of information, and they didn't know how to deal with this information. So my job wasn't informant. My job was more complicated. And in fact, at some level, I was asked to stay away from the movement so we don't get suspicious somehow. So it was a joint effort. Everybody, many soldiers in the field, technology resources, and many brave men and women also were working, and nobody knows about them today. They don't show off, and I am not in a position to say, okay, I get the glory because they cannot talk anything. It was everybody's effort, and I am happy that we could stop the killing of many innocent people, Palestinians and Israelis.
Yes. You know, whenever there's a new president elected, they always have the plan for peace in the Middle East, and we've seen so many of these agreements signed on the White House front lawn, and the people shake hands and they have their photo, and it's broken in such a short period of time. What would you say, Musab, is at the heart of the trouble in the Middle East? What is the heart of this issue?
It's first of all, anybody who wants to solve the problem in the Middle East, they need to understand what the problem first. You cannot go and solve a problem that you don't understand. So first of all, first step, they need to understand what's going on there. Now the question, do Palestinians know what their problem is? I doubt. Do Israelis know their problem is? I doubt. So I don't blame the American president. In fact, people who are in charge in there, they're people behind the scenes, underground groups, and unfortunately, I'm coming from there. Hamas is a very secretive, closed community under the ground. Even Hamas members don't understand what Hamas is all about. They don't know how Hamas operates. And I wrote something in Son of Hamas that even my father, a top Hamas leader, didn't understand how Hamas was operating, which everybody was shocked. So Palestinians don't know about Hamas, and the Israelis also don't know about the Shin Bet. Not every Israeli got the chance to learn how the Shin Bet works. So the Israelis also were shocked with my story, as the Palestinians were shocked. It was hard for both communities to believe. So now, This is why I had to pay a very high price to write Son of Hamas, to educate public first. Now, if we can build a public opinion about what's the problem, how a child grow up in that society, and what type of challenges that they face, how they feel. And the picture, I want to make it also that the picture is not black and white, as we think, that Palestinians versus Israelis, those are good guys and those are bad guys. The situation is much more complicated than that. So now, if we start to understand the problem, start to feel with people on both sides, we will be more responsible of our decisions. And at that level, I think US President and all politicians will be able to make more brave steps toward peace in the Middle East. There can be peace. Maybe tomorrow we will hear that there is a peace process and there is an establishment of a Palestinian state, maybe. I see lots of pressure on Israel, lots of pressure on every side, but I cannot guarantee that a Palestinian state will bring peace to the Middle East. Peace starts from the heart of every individual in that region. It's not about a government here and a government there. And now, what I say that the problem is ideological problem. And to be honest with you, I'm sure that many people understand this, that this is an ideological problem, but they don't want to admit it. They don't want religious war. They don't want war between Muslims and Christians across the globe. But it is ideological problem, and there has been religious war for the last 1400 years. Muhammad claimed that he flew from Mecca to Jerusalem on a flying donkey. This is why Al-Aqsa Mosque is the third most important holy site for Muslims. Right. This is why. Simply, how can we solve this problem? Disapprove that this man, flew on a donkey to Al-Aqsa Mosque, and they will stop believing that this is a holy site anymore. Yeah. Disapprove their God. You ask Muslims, for example, this is how the ideological problems, like now the fight on Temple Mount is not between Muslims and Jews. It's between the God of the Torah, who gave the promise for his people, for that exact spot, and the God of Islam, the God of the Quran, who gave his people also the promise of that exact spot. Yeah. So the war is between the God of Torah and the God of the Quran. Right. It's God's wars. It's ideological war. The Bible versus the Quran. Yeah. So one of them has to be right and one of them has to be wrong. And they both can't be wrong, by the way. This can cause a religious war, but one of them has to be wrong, and I'm telling you that the Quran is wrong, because if Muslims, and by the way, I say this to Muslims every day. I don't just say it to Christians. One simple question to Muslims. The God of the Quran to them is God Almighty. Allah in Arabic means God Almighty. So Allah in their mind is supposed to be God, the perfect one, who will never make a mistake. So we go to them and ask them, okay, we found several mistakes in the Quran. Can your God make one single mistake? They say, no, there is no way. Okay, let me show you the mistake. No, we don't want to hear it. And if you force them to hear it, they turn their backs and they run. They stuff rags into their ears so they don't hear, simply because they don't want to face the consequences. And this was one of the main reasons that I came public with this. The worst reputation in the Middle East to collaborate with Israel against your people. This is the worst reputation a man can bring to himself. And I said, is this like your biggest fear? I'm taking it. Yes, I did work for the Shin Bet, I worked for the Israelis, and I did what was right, regardless of your shame. So, their God. First of all, we need to liberate them from their God and his weapons against them of fear, guilt, shame. Those are the worst enemies of any society, any community. You know, here, like, we mistake, we sin. I'm the worst sinner. I'm the worst Christian in the world, I think. And but I live by God's grace. I never feel guilty, no matter what I do. Because of that, I am a free man. I am a free man. And this is how Jesus Christ liberated humanity from religion.
Amen.
You know, and this is, we are not, I don't want to dig deep into this philosophy now, but I think we know the difference between a relationship, the difference between a peaceful relationship between you and your Creator and being a slave to your Creator. And this is Muslims' problems. Muslims don't understand the Quran. I want to explain this a little. Excuse me, I'm extending my
That's
answer.
fine. Go ahead.
Now, Americans here, they.
Nah, saudara dikasih Tuhan, para pencinta Jangan Baget, bagaimana tanggapan Bapak Ibu semua setelah menyaksikan cuplikan video yang baru saja kita tonton sama-sama? Tentu sangat mengagetkan kita semuanya, dan tentu hal ini sangat membuat juga teman-teman kita dari seberang kaget. Lebih-lebih lagi anggota Hamas, petinggi Hamas, itu putra daripada petinggi Hamas, murtad. Ketika dia merenungkan apa yang dilakukan selama ini tidak masuk di akalnya dan tidak selaras dengan sifat-sifat Tuhan, apalagi ketika melakukan sesuatu di luar kewajaran memakai nama Tuhan, dia merenungkan, dia duduk termenung, meresapi apakah benar yang dia lakukan atau tidak. Ketika dia dapatkan jawaban bahwa ini semua bukan berasal dari Tuhan, ini bukan membela Tuhan, ini bukan membela agama, bukan membela rasul, bukan membela ini, bukan membela itu. Nah, akhirnya Bapak Ibu dia temukan jawaban di dalam Alkitab. Kasihilah musuhmu, doakan mereka yang menganiaya kamu. Nah, bukan kita tambah membenci orang yang membenci kita, orang yang memusuhi kita. Hukum dunia Bapak Ibu mengasihi orang yang mengasihi kita. Kita mencintai orang yang mencintai kita. Itu hukum dunia. Kita memberi kepada orang yang memberi buat kita. Tetapi hukum Tuhan, sekalipun dia membenci kita, menghina kita, mengolok-olok kita, memusuhi kita, hukum yang Tuhan ajarkan kepada kita adalah kasihi dia. Dia memusuhi kita, kasihi dia, kata Tuhan. Kamu sudah mendengar firman, kasihilah sesama manusia sebagaimana engkau mengasihi dirimu sendiri. Tetapi aku katakan kepadamu sekarang, kata Yesus, kasihilah musuhmu, doakan mereka yang menganiaya kamu. Bayangkan Bapak Ibu, putra petinggi Hamas bisa murtad percaya kepada Yesus ketika apa yang dia lakukan selama ini bertentangan dengan hati nuraninya dan bertentangan dengan sifat-sifat Tuhan. Itu dia Bapak Ibu. Kalau orang sudah dipilih oleh Tuhan dan dia dibiarkan dirinya dipilih oleh Tuhan, dia merendahkan dirinya, dia merendahkan hatinya, akhirnya anak siapapun tetap akan datang kepada Tuhan kalau dia mau merendahkan diri, mau membuka sedikit ruang hati dan ruang pikirannya untuk kebenaran. Ketika Yesus ketuk pintu hatinya, mau dibuka sedikit saja, maka Yesus akan masuk. Dan putra Hamas membiarkan dirinya dipimpin oleh kuasa Roh HaKodes. Setelah itu dia murtad, keluar dari agama Islam. Ya tentunya Bapak Ibu, setelah dia murtad, banyak hal yang dia alami. Banyak sekali tantangan-tantangan yang dia hadapi. Bukan saja dia menghadapi keluarga, teman, sahabat, kerabat. Yang dia hadapi adalah Hamas. Bahkan saya pernah mendengar kepala dia itu Bapak Ibu dihargai miliar rupiah. Kenapa? Karena dia membongkar semua kejahatan yang dilakukan oleh Hamas selama ini. Begitu dia murtad, dia melihat apa yang selama ini dia lakukan benar-benar bertentangan dengan hati nuraninya, benar-benar bertentangan dengan sifat-sifat Tuhan. Akhirnya Bapak Ibu, dia mengambil kesimpulan bahwa ini bukan berasal dari Tuhan, ini bukan membela Tuhan, bukan membela Rasul, bukan membela Nabi, bukan membela agama. No. ini khusus melakukan menuruti keinginan hawa nafsu. Nah, saudara dikasih Tuhan, para pencinta Yel Habaget, silahkan tulis di kolom komentar apa yang Bapak Ibu dapatkan, dan sharekan video ini agar teman-teman kita dari seberang itu bisa melihat, ya, bisa melihat bagaimana Hamas itu tidak bedanya mereka dengan teroris, ya. Kalau saya katakan Hamas itu adalah teroris, benar-benar teroris. Mereka bukan memperjuangkan Palestina, tetapi memperjuangkan keinginan mereka sendiri, keinginannya sendiri. Tetapi dia sembunyi di balik agama. Dia minta belas kasihan dunia untuk melancarkan semua aksi bejat-bejatnya itu. Sangat kita sayangkan. Dan nanti Bapak Ibu saya akan tampilkan sebuah cuplikan video bagaimana Menteri Israel sebelum membalas serangan Hamas, dia meminta duluan supaya orang Palestina yang ada di jalur Gaza untuk sembunyi, untuk pindah, supaya tidak berada di situ karena tempat itu akan diserang oleh Israel. Artinya Bapak Ibu, sebelum dia menyerang, dia beri dulu peringatan supaya masyarakat sipil yang ada di situ pindah, tidak berada di sana karena tempat itu akan dibumi hanguskan. Nah, kira-kira begitu saudaraku. Nanti saya akan tampilkan bagaimana cuplikan videonya. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum bisim Hamasiyah. Salam aki. Aku kabarkan Injil keselamatan. Bapak Yahweh bisim Adonai Yesus Hamasiyah. Waruah Kudus memberkati kita semua. Haleluya. Amin. Salam murtadin. Firman Tuhan katakan, bukan kamu yang memilih aku, tetapi akulah yang memilih kamu. Ketika Tuhan memilih, maukah saudara memberikan ruang hati saudara, ruang pendengaran saudara untuk masuk firman Tuhan, untuk masuk kebenaran itu, atau saudara mengeraskan hati? Pilihan semuanya ada di tangan Bapak Ibu. Terima kasih.